Yo, what's going on, guys? It's Josh. I'm back with another Game of Thrones review for you. Sorry it's a little late. Starting off, I just want to preface this by saying I'm not getting over being sick. I still am sick, so if my voice sounds weird and if I cough a little bit, it's because of that. I am still sick, unfortunately, but getting a lot better. Obviously, able to do this review. So naturally, I'm better. Last night I was planning on doing the review, but I had a super bad headache that was like horrible. It was unbearable. Just to give you context, I was like in bed, and I'm like, "There's no way I'm falling asleep. This headache's too intense. I'm fucked. I'm gonna be up all night, just like in pain, right?" And then next thing I know, I woke up in the morning, so I guess I fell asleep. But anyway, enough of my shitty stories. I got my iced tea here. Purely, please sponsor me. I love you. God, I fucking love tea. Anyway, shouts out to Endless Jess. Anyway, so jumping right in here, I have this episode compared to the last, at least. Well, it was nowhere near as good, obviously, because the last episode, if you watched my review, you know, is my favorite episode of the show. So, obviously, it was nowhere near as good as the last episode. However, it was much more dense, and there's a lot more to talk about. That means, despite being not as strong of an episode overall, there's a lot more. It's a stronger as an episode to review and talk about and discuss, because there's more things to talk about. So I'm going to jump right in here. A lot of plot lines were addressed. Almost every plot line, except for Sansa and Jon's plot line, were pretty much addressed. Probably I'm forgetting a couple, but I'm going to jump right in here with my personal favorite plotline, the one I'm most invested in now, is Bran's. And as they're escaping the White Walkers that are chasing them, he has some very important flashbacks. And I'd like to discuss some of the ones I particularly noticed. I obviously wasn't able to notice all of them because it was going very fast. It reminded me a lot of the sequences in the new Star Wars movie, Force Awakens, where Rey touches his lightsaber and we get flashes of a bunch of stuff. It reminded me a lot of that. Obviously, the most apparent one that you can clearly infer from this set of flashbacks is we see the... that song was coming into my room. Well, fuck. Anyway, so we see the Mad King flipping out, wanting to... He went crazy. As we know that in the story, he did not want Robert and his forces to get into it. It was the very end of Robert's rebellion. Robert and his forces were about to get into King's Landing. So rather than let them take King's Landing, this guy was insane. We have to remember that. He would rather commit genocide and burn the entire city down, killing everyone, leaving nothing for Robert to conquer rather than lose the city. So Jaime saw what was going to happen and was like, shit, we can't let this happen. We can't let him use wildfire to burn the entire city. We have to stop this. And obviously, as was revealed to us in either season... I think it was season 3 this was revealed to us. Jaime was the Kingslayer because he was saving everyone from the Mad King. He didn't tell anyone that. He was just the Kingslayer, known as the one that betrayed the Mad King for Robert Baratheon. But obviously we know more from his reveal to Brienne that that's not true. We finally get to see it in action through Bran's flashbacks. That's why I love Finance Master. We get all these glimpses of history that we don't really get elaborated on in any other thing. We also see, this was a little bit less noticeable, and this was the only other one I noticed during his series of flashbacks. We see what can be presumed to be Lyanna Stark covered in blood, assumingly in the Tower of Joy after what we saw with Ned earlier in the season with flashbacks. I believe it was episode 3, I believe, and that was when I thought they were going to reveal it. But this is more fuel to the R plus L equals J theory that's so popular. It's just more fire under that theory. So yeah, everyone could keep on talking about that, keep on going on about all that crap, because it's not crap, obviously. It's what I believe. It's what most people believe, and it's what's very, very likely to be right. And it's clear the direction the show going that Sally Equals J is probably going to be canon, and it will be a huge twist if it wasn't. We don't know this about the books, but I do believe it's the true canon of the books, but we'll see. We may never know. It might always be a theory. But they obviously cock-tease us with that again, with Lyanna covered in blood, presumably talking to Ned. So, but that's all the flashbacks I was able to notice in his montage of flashbacks. I may go back and rewatch the episode and try to find more, but for now, that's all I really noticed right away. But we see that Bran and... Fuck, what is her name again? I keep on forgetting the girl's name that's traveling with Bran. I know her last name is Reed, obviously, and her brother was Jojen Reed. I don't remember her name, unfortunately. I felt really bad for her. She pretty much accepted defeat. She knew they were going to die. There was no way they could escape. Bran was too heavy. She was too weak. But finally, someone goes to save them. And at first, I was like, holy shit, they're doing Cold Hands from the book. And just to preface again, I've never read the books. I just know all this information about the books from the Game of Thrones community online. So I'm like, holy shit, are they doing Cold Hands from the books? Oh my god. But turns out they weren't doing Cold Hands. It was not Cold Hands. And it was none other than Benjen Stark finally back in the story. I knew he was going to come back since they're mentioning that we haven't seen him since season 1. I knew he was going to come back. It was just a matter of time, and they finally did it. Something I thought was going to happen this season. Definitely after they mentioned him and build him up so much in the season 5 finale right before they killed Jon. I definitely thought, hey, they can't be name-dropping him and showing him so much in previous Leons if they weren't actually going to bring him back. It's not like Gendry, where Gendry disappears and they haven't mentioned him since. They haven't referred to him in conversation regularly. Benjen was a character that was definitely referred to in conversation and referenced and talked about. So when a character is alive in someone's minds and we don't see them die, it usually means they're going to return to the show. And this is evident. Sorry about that. Like I said, I'm sick. This was evident in the return of Benjen, and it was a pretty amazing scene because I've been waiting for this character to come back since season 1. I'd say season 1 and 2, I think he disappeared in season 1. I was a little curious. And then I forgot about him during seasons 3 and 4, and I was reminded of him in season 5, which I think was the intention of the showrunners. Like, hey, let's make them forget about this character so when he comes back, it's even more of a shock. And they sort of ease him up, they eased him up in season 5 so people sort of had some memory of him. Because if I didn't remember him in season 5, I probably wouldn't remember him at all until after research and looking him up and be like, oh, that's the guy from season 1. But he's finally back, and we find out what happened to him, why he never returned. Him and his crew were approached by White Walkers. Everyone was presumably turned to White Walkers, including himself. He was being started to transform into White Walker, but the Children of the Forest saved him using Dragon Glass. They impaled him with Dragon Glass, the same technique that they used to create the Night's King, to take away the magic of the Night's King, presumably. So, my question is there a threshold in the process to where you can stab someone with Dragon Glass instead of they're not far enough to be a White Walker where it will take away their powers instead of destroying them? Because we know that the weakness of the White Walkers is dragons and Dragon Glass, Dragonfire and Dragon Glass. So we've seen White Walkers defeated by Dragon Glass multiple times on the show. So my question is there a stage where someone is being turned into a White Walker, where you could stab them with Dragon Glass and it will turn them back into human, not kill them? And I feel like it can't just be Dragon Glass. I feel like it has to be part of the Children of the Forest magic. That's my opinion on it. I feel like the combination of Dragon Glass and Children of the Forest magic allows that. And now that the Children of the Forest are presumably extinct, and they're no longer going to be appearing on the show, we have no way of doing this, because Benjen was brought back, obviously, before the Children of the Forest were, because this was just minutes ago in the show canon, before the Children of the Forest were annihilated in the Three-Eyed Raven's cave. And so, the thing is, though, this sort of proves and disproves a popular theory. The popular theory was that Benjen maybe the Night's King, or maybe a prominent White Walker since he's been gone so long beyond the wall and was transformed. That's the popular theory. So it's canon that he was turning into a White Walker, but he was rescued. And obviously, this isn't book canon. This is show canon. And they're obviously sort of combining the idea, because we haven't seen Cold Hands in the show yet. Unless we're going to see him in the future, they're sort of combining the idea of Cold Hands with Benjen. Not necessarily Cold Hands itself, because George R. R. Martin has come out and said his character Cold Hands is not Benjen, and they are two completely different characters. So they're sort of combining that idea. Unless they're going to show Cold Hands in the future, I feel like they're combining those ideas. But what Benjen pretty much explains is that he was, since the Children of the Forest saved him and brought him to the Three-Eyed Raven, he's been working as a sort of assistant or servant of the Three-Eyed Raven beyond the wall, because of what happened to him. He didn't really want to return to the wall. So now that the Three-Eyed Raven is deceased, and Bran has taking the role of the Three-Eyed Raven, has ran a new Three-Eyed Raven. Benjen has sort of become a servant / further mentor for Bran from now on. So he's going to be sort of following orders from Bran, probably advising Bran, and sort of doing anything in his power to support Bran in his journey to help save Westeros, presumably, or the world for that matter. Really looking forward to Benjen being back. I've been waiting for him for such a long time, and I'm looking forward to what purpose he has to serve in the story. I don't know where he's taking him. Maybe he has like sort of a fort or somewhere, like another cave or something up on the wall. But if he takes him back to the wall, this could be very dangerous because of Bran's magic and the lack of Children of the Forest magic. Like I said in the last episode, I believe that now that the Children of the Forest are deceased, are all gone, there's no magic supporting the wall anymore, so they can easily just break through, or Bran's mark, if he goes beyond the wall, will allow the magic to be cancelled and the White Walkers to build again. So one of those two will allow the White Walkers to either destroy the wall or get through the wall. So now we're 12 minutes in, and I've only talked about the first storyline. We got back to southern Westeros, and we see Sam finally brought Gilly to his family. And it was a disaster. His dad was the biggest dick. He just was channeling that, oh my god, am I blanking out the name? Tywin Lannister. What the fuck is wrong with me? Like, in him, he was just channeling that. I just hated him so much. He was such an asshole. And the entire time, I'm like, Gilly, don't be a fucking moron. Don't tell him you're a wildling. Don't reveal it. And then, of course she does. Of course she was going to. What did we expect? Of course she was going to be an idiot and tell her that. So Sam doesn't stand up for him, but he finally snaps, taking his father's prized sword that he said will never go to him. So I'm worried. Does this mean that once his father sees that the sword is gone, is he going to chase after Sam and send forces after Sam, or is he going to leave it be and Sam's going to use this sword throughout the story to defend himself? I don't know. Not really much to discuss there, but it was an interesting scene, and it shows the dynamic between Sam and his father, where he's afraid of his father, yet he's willing to stand up to him, not in his face. I guess it's much easier to stand up to people when it's not in their face, obviously, so that's a given. But just the way the scene played out was very interesting, and it was a great perspective into Sam's family life, and what it's like, how his mom loves him, his sister loves him, but his dad hates him. And his dad's such an asshole. I wouldn't want love from that person anyway, so fuck him. Apparently he was a great war general, according to Stannis, and probably according to Ned Stark, so who knows. So we cut back to Arya, and finally, I haven't really mentioned this, I am so sick of the Faceless Man plot. It's just, to me, I don't know if it is going somewhere, but to me it feels like it's going nowhere. I don't see how the Faceless Men are going to serve any major purpose in the War for the Dawn or the story of Ice and Fire. And it's just like they seem like just this thing for Arya's development, personally, and I feel like finally we're getting that payoff to that development when she decides, inevitably we knew this was going to happen, she was never going to be able to fully give up Arya Stark. She stops the poisoning from happening, she decides she wants to become Arya Stark again, she goes back, gets her needle, she goes back, she hides it, I believe she's still sleeping in the Faceless, the House of Black and White, but we don't fully I believe that's where she was. But we see that the girl from the House of Black and White was spying on her, being a snitch, and you see there's going to be a fight there. There's definitely going to be some sort of battle, and Arya's going to win. There's no way Arya's going to die this early in the story. It just doesn't seem right, because I feel like she is an endgame character. So I don't think she's going to die, but I'm definitely proud of her, and I'm happy that she's finally getting over this whole faceless man thing, and the sort of connection she thought she had with Jaqen H'ghar. She thought she had a friend, but not a friend. He doesn't care about her, and I think she's finally starting to realize, to understand that, and they're finally going to get this faceless man crap, the pretty shitty storyline, out of the storyline. Finally get back to the good Arya storyline, when she either returns to Westeros or joins the theater troupe that's been traveling around Essos telling the stories of Westeros. So either she's going to join the theater troupe or go back to Westeros. I'm not really sure. There's not enough evidence to either to make a claim yet. But we'll probably see in the next episode if they continue Arya's storyline or the episode after that. But cutting back to mainland Westeros, King's Landing, the capital of Westeros, we see that the Faith Militant, using Tommen as a puppet, because he's too young to be a powerful leader. He's definitely a weak king. It's obvious that he's going to be a weak king because of how young he is. But he might be able to become a strong king as an adult. But right now he's a weak king, so anyone could pretty much put their intention inside of him and use him as a puppet to actually control Westeros. And I feel like the Faith Militant, particularly the High Sparrow, has succeeded in this. And my thing with the High Sparrow is, it's so hard to tell whether he's actually this religious man or he's just some bullshit artist that just wants to take down the system and fuck up the plans of King's Landing and the Lannisters and all that shit. You can't tell if he's actually really devoted or not. And based on the smug look he had on his face throughout that scene, I definitely think that he is sort of a bullshit artist. I definitely have this gut feeling that he's a bullshit artist and none of this faith things that is bullshit. There's obviously no way of knowing. He could be a really devout man. I think this is the right thing to do, but just the way he looked just gave me that indication. It gave me that cue that maybe he's a bullshit artist, and I think he actually is. But continuing off of that, Tommen, under the influence of the High Sparrow, removes Jaime from the Kingsguard. Jaime, just to give you context, has been on the Kingsguard for pretty much his entire life beyond childhood. He's been from a very young age. He's been on the Kingsguard. He served, I think, a couple of Targaryen kings, maybe only the Mad King. I'm not quite sure. I'm not quite familiar with that history yet. But he's been on the Kingsguard forever, and now he serves the Baratheons, obviously. The Baratheons. Serves his fucking own family. God damn it. But, so yeah, we really, so this is, devastating to him, obviously. This is something he doesn't know what to do, but he's sent to the Riverlands. I believe he's helping Walder. He's assisting Walder Frey to take back the Riverlands from the Blackfish. But I'll get into that story a little bit. I still want to talk about Jaime. And so he's being sent there to, I think, help Walder Frey, but who's back in the story, by the way, but I'll talk about him in a minute. But Cersei mentions, I believe this might have been revealed earlier, but I'm not quite sure, that her trial is going to be one of trial by combat, and she's obviously going to use the Mountain, now known as Robert Strong with the zombification. But so she says she's going to use the Mountain, and we don't know who the High Sparrow is going to use to represent him. And the show might take there's a just to give you context, I might explain this. There's a popular fan theory in the Game of Thrones community called Clegane Bowl, and what this is that the Hound has not actually died, because we didn't see him die on screen, that he's actually alive, and that he, the popular theory insists that he's at some monastery on an island off the coast of Westeros. I don't remember what the island's call, but he's on a monastery there, and the High Sparrow knows this is one of his monasteries, knows he's there, and he's going to use him to represent him in a trial, and he's going to bring brought back to King's Landing and finally get revenge on his brother, the Mountain, in a trial by combat. And that's the popular theory. It's called Clegane obviously, because it's going to be a battle between the Clegane brothers. And so the show may actually do that. And it's going to be interesting because they casted this season Ian McShane. We haven't seen him yet, and he's in a very small role. So most people are guessing that he's going to be the priest at the monastery that the Hound is staying at. So that might be what ends up happening there, and it might the McLean might actually be a thing, which is really cool. Because before this, I thought it was kind of a far-fetched theory, and I didn't think it was actually happening. But now I'm sort of optimistic about this theory, and I believe it has a chance in the narrative, which is really exciting, because I don't support theories that don't really have a chance in the narrative, no matter how cool they are. And this was a cool theory, but it's just about too cheesy for the narrative in a way. But now it feels like it would fit. It feels like it would be good. And I'm looking forward to seeing if that actually happens. But who knows? Could be someone else. We don't know. But so going back to the whole Walder Frey thing, we see Walder Frey again. So he's very upset because the Blackfish took back the Riverlands from him. So he's fucking pissed. He obviously wants his land back. He's been in control of that land ever since the Red Wedding occurred. And we see that he has a hostage that he's going to try to negotiate to get back the Riverland for, which is Caitlyn's brother, I believe. And we haven't seen him since season 3. He was big in the upper echelon of Robb Stark's army during season 3 when he was trying to defeat the Lannisters, which obviously ended in the Red Wedding, obviously. So we see that he's been taken hostage. He wasn't actually married off. He's been treated horribly. Obviously, he looks like a mess, and so they're going to try to use him as leverage to get the Blackfish to give back the Riverlands. Or, it's not the whole Riverlands, I believe it's just Riverrun. I'm not 100% positive. Comment below if you have more information about that. I'm really not quite sure fully. But, so yeah, that's pretty much wraps up all the stuff in Westeros, and I obviously talked about some stuff in the East. But going to Daenerys' scene, it was kind of cheesy. It felt a little weird. She pretty much said, all my blood riders are going to take out Westeros. When she was first going behind the thing to see the dragon, I saw the smoke and everything, so I assumed it could have been the dragon breathing, which was the most likely thing, but I had this little hope in me. I'm like, is she going to see Quaithe behind there? We haven't seen Quaithe since season 2, I believe. Might be season 3. But I'm pretty sure it's season 2. Comment below if you know the correct answer. But yeah, I was like, is she going to see Quaithe? Is she going to get advice from Quaithe? That would be so awesome to see her coming back. I want her to come back. She was another drop character, and she hasn't been mentioned because she's so mysterious, but that would be so cool if we saw her again. She's one of the most intriguing characters on the show, and I feel like she's very important. We don't know her affiliations at all. We don't know anything, but I feel like she's very important in the War for the Dawn as sort of a mentor figure, and I feel like she's one of those mythological figures, and it's sort of, she's very tied into the whole, she's very involved in the whole land bridge between the farthest east reaches and the lands of Always Winter and Westeros theory, which is really cool, and we haven't seen her, and it's just a wasted character, and I wanted to see her back, but obviously that wasn't going to happen. It was just going to be her dragon, because they're not going to bring back Quaithe. If they do, it's going to be a shock. Watch, I eat shit in next episode they bring back Quaithe. That would be hilarious. But, yeah, most people don't remember Quaithe, which is the thing. Whenever I tell people about Quaithe, they're like, who's that? And that's the thing that bothers me the most about her, because she was so interesting and so intriguing, and we just have no memory of her. But yeah, so... Wait, no, did we see her again in the palace? Oh god, I can't remember. Fuck. We might have seen her again, but since season 2, when we saw her in that village, I don't remember. See, it's the thing, they haven't used her enough for me to remember her whole storyline, but whatever. Comment below if you have any clarification on that. But yeah, I thought the scene was pretty cheesy where she said they're all her blood riders, but it seems like they're going really fast. It seems like this whole trip by being kidnapped by the Dothraki, defeating the Dothraki, getting the army, sort of put her priorities straight, and she realized, I'm dilly-dallying here. As much as I love to free the slaves and save Slaver's Bay from slavery, I don't have a lot. I think it's time to go back, take Westeros first. And I think this is where Euron's going to come in, because he might be the one that wants to provide her with that fleet, which will give him leverage in her eyes. But So that might be where Euron comes back into the story, who we haven't seen this episode. We haven't seen the Greyjoy arc this episode. Wasn't continued. That's another arc that they didn't continue fully. But yeah, so I feel like that's where Daenerys sort of got that perspective put in place again, and she's ready. She's like, okay, we're going to go back and we're going to go to Westeros, not knowing that her fleet's burned. So I feel like she's probably going to have to wait until her fleet is until Euron comes. I mean, that's what I'm trying to say. Fuck. Anyway, but yeah, so shit's gonna go down in Marina. I think. I don't know if she's gonna be back yet, but I think there was a shot in the trailer of like the castle getting blown up. But I don't remember if that was true. I don't remember if that's just my imagination, a dream I had. Who knows? But I feel like that shot was in the trailer. So that might mean some shit's gonna go down in Marine. I don't know if it's the Sons of the Harpy attacking the Masters or Euron. But who knows? I certainly don't. And after 26 fucking minutes of talking about Game of Thrones, I'm tired of it. So I hope that sufficed. I hope I got my points across. Hope you guys enjoyed this review. So thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you guys next week.